where they are now completely separate from each other.
Did Harry just break his silence on the Meghan split? Depends how you read it. He's not the type to jump in front of a camera and spill. When rumors peak, his play is quieter, cleaner, and far more controlled. One sentence through a spokesperson, a short, cool answer in a serious room, or a legal nudge that travels faster than any tweet.
I'm not even sure if Harry will appear in a single episode of when part 2 drops.
Tonight we decode that playbook and read what a real response from Harry looks like, so you can tell the difference between noise and signal. The spark this time didn't come from a tabloid ambush. It came from a kitchen, a simple pasta clip, a white shirt, soft lighting, and a jewelry stack that sent the internet into meltdown.
I think they're both hinting that they've broken up, or at least Meghan is. There just seems to be an undertone to it.
Some viewers saw a lifestyle mood board, others saw a flex. That contrast, homey food, high-lux shine, turned into something bigger. If she's cooking alone on camera, where is he?
Even her friends, she's even had the people helping her cook, and they're all wearing their jewelry, and I just think that's pretty gross.
Why is this chapter so singular? A few seconds of video and suddenly the timeline is filled with guesses, theories, and insider whispers. Here's the tension everyone feels but rarely says. When a couple builds separate lanes in public, one leaning into lifestyle, the other into causes and governance, distance is the easiest headline to write. The camera can create silence without muting anyone. If Harry's not in the frame, that absence becomes the story. Add the show's timing, a new season landing with celebrity guests and warm conversation, and you have all the ingredients for the oldest rumor in the book. Not together equals not together. Simple, but not always true. Now look at Harry's calendar from the last year. It's heavy. Not red carpet heavy, structural heavy. Board meetings, charity governance, reputational audits, the kind of work that demands careful language. When a foundation's scuffle turns public, you don't freewheel. When an organization you support admits failures and promises reform, you don't riff on Instagram. You speak briefly, if at all, and you let institutions carry the long paragraphs. That difference alone, recipes versus reports, creates an illusion of separation. In reality, it's two people living on different parts of the public spectrum. So how does Harry actually respond when the internet decides to write his personal life for him? He follows a pattern. Step 1, the on-record line. Short, dignified, and delivered somewhere that signals seriousness. Not a casual live stream, not a wink and nod blog. A venue that treats rumor like background static. He's used that lane before, and it works because it resets expectations without feeding the drama engine. Step 2, the legal lane. When a claim crosses a line, he doesn't subtweet, he documents. A letter, a correction request, a reminder that words matter. Most people never see the letter, they see the effect. Headlines soften, phrases change, the tone corrects. That is a response, even if it isn't packaged as an interview. Step 3, the spokesperson checkpoint. A single sentence you can print. No adjectives, no color, no oxygen for follow-ups. It's the sentence every editor wants and every rumor hates, because once the quote lands, the speculation has to work harder. If he breaks his silence on Split Talk now, expect one of those three. A crisp line through a representative, a formal nudge aimed at the loudest echo chambers, or a single answer tucked inside a bigger conversation about his work. That's his style. Narrow message, broad setting, then move on. But there's a fourth move he uses that too many people miss, the non-quote quote. A gesture that reads like a sentence, a wreath with a note on a day of remembrance, a quiet appearance at a veteran event, a brief unsmiling walk past cameras on his way into a meeting. None of these say, "Here's my statement," yet each of them speaks. When he wants to push back without feeding the beast, he picks posture over paragraph. You don't get a rant, you get a message written in actions. Meanwhile, Meghan's lane is built to be seen. A show about home cooking and conversation will always look more intimate than a governance update. Pair that with a lifestyle brand drop, and every object in the frame, aprons, plates, glasses, wines, the whole domestic constellation becomes a character. If those objects don't connect to the episodes in a way that feels natural, the audience calls it contrived. If they do connect, the audience calls it smart. Either way, the camera is doing a job Harry rarely asks it to do for him. That mismatch of mediums creates most of the split chatter without anyone saying a word. The jewelry discourse is its own weather system. Some see a tribute to his mother when that classic watch appears. Others see a symbol of everything critics love to hate. And yes, cooking in diamonds made for a viral day online. But here's the sober read. Internet optics are a moving target. On Monday, they claim hypocrisy. On Tuesday, they call it aspirational. On Wednesday, they insist it's all coded messages about him. The only durable signal is behavior over time, not a single clip. One post is a spark. A pattern is a story. Let's talk about why people want a big quote from Harry, and why they rarely get it. This is a man who spent years learning how a single sentence can be lifted, trimmed, spun, and republished forever. He's watched jokes become jabs and explanations become accusations on the third retelling. The answer to that lesson is brevity. When it's personal, keep it private. When it's wrong, fix it quietly. When it's everywhere, wait it out. He trusts that strategy more than he trusts the dopamine of a public clapback. So if you're expecting a fiery speech, you'll be disappointed. If you're expecting precision, you're finally speaking his language. The most likely line you'll ever hear is something like, "We don't discuss private matters, and speculation is unhelpful." It seems bland until you realize what it does. It refuses the premise without feeding it. It draws a circle around family. It creates no headline for round two. It is, in its way, the most efficient answer possible. Why then do break silence headlines keep exploding across your feed? Because the culture treats tone as text. A no comment during a high-temperature moment is interpreted as a statement. A legal reminder to an outlet becomes a de facto denial. A quiet appearance together at a charity table replaces 1,000 words. When nothing is said, everything is read. That's the economy of attention we live in. The absence of a paragraph becomes the paragraph. Of course, the rumor mill wants receipts. They want a sit-down where he confirms or denies like a courtroom closing argument. That will almost never happen. Not because there isn't an answer, but because setting that precedent guarantees more questions. Give the public a 5-minute monologue about your personal life, and you've trained the audience to ask for episode 2. Privacy, once surrendered, is hard to buy back. Now, step into the next 72 hours and watch for 3 tells. First, placement. If a line appears in a sober outlet through a named spokesperson, that's your marker. If nothing appears there but you see sudden language softening in the loudest headlines, assume there was a legal tap on the shoulder. If neither happens and the couple quietly occupy the same room at a low-key event, that's the non-quote route. Different paths, same goal. Cool the room without feeding the flames. Second, timing. He doesn't sprint. He lets the first blast of takes burn out so that one measured line can close the window. Quick reactions create more questions. Measured reactions end them. Patience is part of the message. Third, content. Listen for what isn't said. No digs, no play-by-play, no commentary on unnamed sources. The absence of spice is the point. It protects the family, it protects future options. It prevents the third-day headline that always follows a messy quote. Where does that leave Meghan's side? With the one lever that truly changes a month of conversation, performance. If the episodes feel warm instead of performative, if the guests laugh instead of pose, if the food looks doable instead of staged, the narrative shifts from relationship to product. And if the brand syncs to the episodes in ways that feel organic, little callbacks, repeatable recipes, items that exist to be used, not displayed, the audience stays with the show instead of fleeing to theories. If not, the rumor story returns because gossip fills every gap. Content leaves open. There's also a simpler explanation for the separate lives vibe: ordinary adulthood at celebrity scale. 2 careers, 2 calendars, 2 public rhythms. When one is in the kitchen and the other is in a boardroom, it doesn't mean they're not in the same house. It means the camera is. And cameras can make anything look like a decision when it's really a schedule. So what would a Harry response look like if it landed right now? Imagine a 1-sentence line sent to a wire service, polite, firm, and final. Imagine an outlet posting a quiet, updated headline without an apology paragraph. Imagine a short answer, almost an aside, inside a larger conversation about veterans or governance. Each of those outcomes is unexciting on purpose. Each of them closes a tab without opening a new one. And what if nothing happens at all? Then you still have your answer, because silence has a shape when you've watched the pattern enough times. He speaks when it's legal, structural, or mission critical. He steps back when it's speculative, private, or circular. That isn't stonewalling, it's strategy. People who feel they owe the internet a paragraph will talk. People who don't, won't. Let's ground this in the principle he seems to live by now. Control what you can control. He can't stop a trend from starting. He can control whether he fuels it. He can't stop a commentator from crafting a storyline. He can control whether that storyline survives a correction. He can't stop an audience from reading into a clip. He can control what he places in front of that audience next. Meanwhile, the optics war will keep raging. Jewelry versus pasta, rosé versus receipts, guest lists versus board lists. That noise never ends. What ends is attention, and attention goes where it is fed. A strong episode feeds attention. A well-timed appearance feeds attention. A dignified line that refuses to turn private life into public sport feeds respect. You may not remember every rumor by next week. You will remember how a person behaves in the middle of one. So yes, the title says he finally breaks his silence. In a way he does, by choosing the same language he's used for years. As little as necessary, as late as useful, as clear as possible. Maybe it's a single sentence. Maybe it's a correction letter you never see. Maybe it's a calm answer in a serious room, or maybe it's the quietest option of all, standing next to the person everyone insists he has left, saying nothing, because nothing needed saying. If you're looking for a scoreboard, here it is. Did you get a measured line from someone authorized to speak? Did you see a sudden change in phrasing from the loudest outlets without a fight? Did a brief public moment together erase a week of speculation in an hour? Any one of those is a break silence moment in the only language that still works. The drama keeps asking for a monologue, the adults keep answering with a sentence, and when the next rumor rolls in, as it always does, expect the same rhythm. Work first, family guarded, words used sparingly, moves made where they matter. Paradoxically, that restraint says more about the state of things than any confession could, because the people who are finished tend to talk as if time is running out. The people who aren't tend to act as if it isn't. So watch what happens after this video ends. If the show lands with warmth and ease, the conversation will drift there. If a formal line appears, you'll hear it quoted everywhere within minutes. If a correction arrives, the headlines will soften before you can screenshot the old ones. And if a calm, unfussy moment together shows up in the wild, the loudest takes will go quiet. Not because they were wrong in neon letters, but because reality doesn't need to shout to be true. That's the whole point of his approach. Make the private truly private. Make the public precise. Leave nothing in between for the rumor economy to live on. You don't have to love the strategy for it to work. You only have to understand the rules of the game he's chosen to play. Did Harry just break his silence? In the way that counts? Yes, by choosing the form of speech that holds up tomorrow, by refusing to let strangers turn a kitchen clip into a courtroom, by reminding everyone that the strongest answer to a headline is a life that doesn't bend to it. Call it boring, call it calculated, call it traditional. It's also effective, and if you've watched him long enough, you knew it would be, because at the end of all the commentary, there's a simple truth about attention. It flows towards certainty and away from noise. A single dignified line creates certainty. A calm presence creates certainty. A life lived on purpose creates certainty. Everything else is just wind. There's a reason the quiet answer outlasts the loud rumor. Loud demands attention for a day. Quiet resets the frame for a month. If you strip away the noise, what you see is a man who has learned the price of giving strangers a headline. He knows that once you feed the beast doesn't say thank you. It just asks for more. So he chooses an older rulebook. Say little, act clean, keep moving. That doesn't mean he's passive. It means he's selective. Notice how the stories that linger are the ones where he said nothing the internet could cut into clips. A single sentence gives reporters nothing to spin and nothing to splice. That's not a dodge, that's discipline. In the attention economy, restraint is a skill. The fewer adjectives he uses, the fewer interpretations get attached to him. That's how you protect a family in a world that treats privacy like a piñata. And then there's the calendar. Public life runs on rhythms, and rumors spike in the quiet spots. When one calendar is filled with filming windows and guest drops, and the other is filled with board reviews and policy calls, the middle looks empty. People project into empty space. They fill it with theories because theories are easier to write than waiting for real things to happen. He knows that, which is why his answers show up on his calendar more than on his social feeds. Watch the dates, not the hashtags. If you've watched him long enough, you can predict the tone. Calm voice, plain words, no heat. If a question lands in a serious interview, he'll take the smallest piece of it and answer that piece only. We don't comment on private matters, full stop. He won't debate what private means. He won't test new phrases in public. He won't help a rumor find its second wind. That's not indifference. That's managing risk like a grown-up. Here's a useful way to read the next few days. Picture 3 clocks. The media clock wants answers in minutes. The legal clock wants precision in days. The personal clock wants peace for years. Those clocks never match. When they fight, he sides with the longest one. That's why his response feels slow to people who live online. He's not playing for the hour. He's playing for what his kids will Google in 10 years. That audience is the only one that can't be fooled. What about the if they're fine, why not just prove it crowd? The truth is, proof has a way of growing arms. One photo becomes pose, one event becomes stunt, and in one sentence becomes admission on the third blog that rewrites it. Proving you're okay is like trying to prove a negative. There's always another demand, another angle, another frame. At some point, you stop performing wellness for people who prefer the opposite storyline. The jewelry debate is a perfect case study in projection. It's a mirror people use to see what they want. Nostalgia sees tribute, critics see excess, marketing sees brand storytelling, but none of that proves anything about a marriage. It proves something about how we read images and how fast we forget context. If a watch can stand in for a decade of history, then a pasta clip can stand in for an entire relationship. That's why his side avoids symbolic theater. The moment you start playing that game, you lose control over the meaning. Another thing worth noting, silence is not the same thing as absence. Presence can be quiet. Standing next to someone says more than 1,000 captions. Leaving a room together says more than a month of posts. This is why the non-quote is so powerful. It replaces noise with geometry. 2 people, 1 frame, nothing said, everything understood. You can't spin that without admitting you saw it. There's also the tradition factor. Older rules still work. Dignity is not outdated. You don't negotiate private life on public timelines. You don't litigate feelings in press releases. You protect what matters and you accept that strangers will invent what they need to fill their feeds. The more you try to correct every misread, the more you signal that the rumor owns you. He won't hand over the keys like that. So if you're keeping score, use this rubric. Did the response protect privacy? Did it avoid adding fuel? Did it point attention back to work, not gossip? If the answer is yes, then you're watching the playbook in action. It isn't glamorous, it isn't dramatic. It's grown-up communications in a world that's addicted to confessionals. The boring choice wins more than people think. Let's deal with the word at the heart of this, split. It's short, suggestive, and slippery. It covers everything from separate projects to separate addresses. That's why it sells. It gives the reader a feeling without the writer needing proof. He understands that game too, which is why his answer doesn't chase the word. He sidesteps it. He answers the only part he can in public. We work, we parent, we keep private matters private. It's not a riddle, it's a boundary. And yes, boundaries frustrate audiences trained by reality TV. Viewers expect access as payment for attention, but access is not an obligation. It's a choice with a bill due later. When you grant it once, the price goes up. Say one personal thing today and you'll be asked for 2 tomorrow. Say 2 and you'll be asked for 10 on Friday. The only way to win is to stop playing. He chose that path. He stays on it even when it costs him likes. Meanwhile, think about the long arc. Couples who are done tend to act like time is short. They flood the zone with messages, statements, property moves, public separations, and careful phrasing that sounds like unity, while setting up the next press release. Couples who aren't tend to act like time is long. They do their work. They appear together when it fits. They ignore bait. It isn't proof. It's pattern. Patterns are more trustworthy than statements. A word on the if it's false, why not sue question. Lawsuits aren't truth machines. They're slow, public, and expensive. They also extend the life of a rumor you might be trying to bury. Sometimes a letter is smarter than a courtroom. Sometimes a correction is better than a victory lap. Sometimes doing nothing is the most effective move of all. Choosing between those options is what good counsel is for, and he listens to counsel more now than he did 10 years ago. There's a practical angle here too. The more he speaks about private matters, the more every future answer becomes newsworthy. If he gives one detailed denial today, the next minor question tomorrow becomes a test. Did he confirm? Did he deny? Did he dodge? That's a loop with no exit. Better to maintain a standard reply that covers everything and changes nothing. That way the story runs out of oxygen unless new facts enter the room. You can also read the brand angle without turning it into a diary. Her show lives or dies on warmth and watchability. His causes live or die on trust and delivery. Those are separate KPIs with a shared roof. If she delivers a season that feels cozy and doable, the conversation tilts to recipes and guests. If he delivers steady, credible updates on the work, the conversation tilts to impact. When both sides do their jobs, the rumor currents lose power because attention has something better to do. What about the moments that look like mixed signals? Solo photos, solo premieres, solo trips. It's normal for busy people to split duties. Someone goes left, someone goes right. That's not a story. That's logistics. The strange thing about fame is that logistics get rebranded as drama the instant a lens is involved. If you accept that truth, you stop trying to outrun it. You let logistics be logistics. The people who need drama will invent it anyway. Here's a prediction you can actually use. If a line arrives, it will be boring to everyone except the people who needed clarity. That's how you know it's real. Drama addicts will call it canned. Editors will call it standard. Family will call it enough. It will live in one sentence, and it will close more tabs than it opens. That's the point of a good line. It ends the story for most people, most of the time. And if the line never comes, then watch for the things that function like a line. Parallel schedules that occasionally intersect. A quiet arrival, a respectful exit, a shared table, a shared car. Mundane, almost dull. The internet hates dull because dull can't be clipped. But dull is where real life lives. There is a kind of message that only routine can deliver. It says, "We are fine in ways we don't need to prove to you." Let's not pretend fans have no role here. Audiences decide whether they reward rage or reward reality. If the calm approach gets more clicks, you'll see more calm. If the hot takes always win, you'll get more heat. He can't control that part, but he can model another way to be public. Fewer fireworks, more follow-through. Less arguing, more doing. That's how trust is earned back once the crowd decides it prefers the loudest voices. The internet will keep testing that trust. It will serve fresh angles with confidence it didn't earn. It will sell mood as fact, and vibes as proof. The only antidote is time. Not a week, not a trend cycle. Time that turns a rumor into a forgettable paragraph in someone else's recap. By then, what lasts will be the things that were built, not the things that were said. So ask yourself the only question that matters at the end of a rumor storm. What changed? Did the family's behavior shift in a way that lines up with the story? Did their calendars bend around a narrative they never acknowledged? Or did the machine run its course while the people inside it kept living their lives? If nothing meaningful moved, then the loudest part of the week was the least true. And that's where we land. Breaking his silence doesn't always sound like a speech. Sometimes it sounds like a closed door. Sometimes it looks like a shared glance at an event you weren't expecting to see. Sometimes it's a single sentence that refuses to carry your baggage for you. The internet may beg for a blow-by-blow. The wiser answer is still a gentle no. So we'll watch what happens next with clear eyes. If there's a line, we'll recognize it for what it is. Measured, minimal, deliberate. If there's a correction, we'll see headlines pivot without a fight. If there's a moment together, we'll let a picture do the work. Words would only complicate. And if there's nothing, we'll remember that nothing is not a void. It's a choice. It's a message. It's a reminder that not every private question belongs to the public square. Did Harry just break his silence? In the only way that lasts. Yes, by refusing to let rumor outrun reality, by picking the calm answer over the emotional one, by trusting that truth doesn't need volume to be true. That's not flashy. It's not loud. It's not designed for virality. It is, however, exactly how you win a long game in a loud world.
Pretty gross.